Savannah Bee Company is a remarkable business founded by an extraordinary man with a legendary purpose. Speaking of Bees is a podcast that offers a glimpse into what lifelong beekeeper, entrepreneur, and activist Ted Dennard made possible. A mission driven by purpose to inspire those who believe in making a difference in the world. Through educating on the importance of saving bees, expert sourcing of the world's finest honey, and selling the world's purest honey and honey products. The Savannah Bee Company story started with a dream, and that dream continues today. By tuning in today, you are helping us get one step closer to saving the bees and ultimately saving the world. All right. Hey, everyone. This is Melanie DePhillips, co-hosting with Ted, and this is our first podcast. Getting to know Savannah Bee Company, getting to know Ted. Ted's here. He's being bashful.
Hello, everybody.
So I have assumed the role of co-host because, I mean, who better than your director of marketing to come in here and get you to spill all your dirty secrets?
Well, you're awesome. So.
Oh, you don't have to say that.
You are perfect for it.
Well, we are here today because we want everybody to get to know the man behind the brand. Savannah Bee Company is, in my opinion, a world-renowned business, putting the best honey and honey products out on the market.
You damn right.
Yeah, I am. And so everybody needs to know the story. They need to know Ted. They need to know Ted's story. And there's a lot to unpack here. So today I want to talk about you and talk about the Ted Dennard story.
Let's talk about me.
So the first thing I want to talk about is where you're from, what your childhood was like. Everybody wants to know what makes up the Ted that we have today for Savannah Bee.
So, I mean, I had the idyllic childhood, right? So the story really begins on a beautiful beach on St. Simon's Island where I grew up, like right on the beach. Middle child, older sister, younger brother, great parents that are still together, 59 years. Same house, same phone number. So a solid anchor of an upbringing on a beach. Super blonde-headed little kid running up on the beach. My mom would send us out, don't come back until I ring this bell, you know. And so we just were sent out to play. Her quote was, the beach is the best babysitter. And
I love that.
Yeah. So that's how I grew up, which was amazing. In the middle of that, to get us to the story here, I was introduced to bees, right? So that's the story. There's this guy, Roy Hightower. He was a beekeeper. He was like a sideliner, which means he's got a real job, and then he's got bees on the side, right? And he put bees on some property that my father had, which is an interesting story in and of itself. But basically, there was 100 acres of land on the mainland. And on the weekends, we'd go out there and, make trails and all kinds of stuff. It's completely forested, but that was the great habitat for bees. There's tons of sawtooth palmetto and gallberry, and those make great honeys. And so that's why Roy wanted to put his bees there. This was in 1979, and we just wanted to learn about beekeeping. So when he would do that, we'd be right there already, and I'd put on rain pants and a rain jacket and boots and gloves because I did not want to get stung. I was terrified, but also enthralled, right? I wanted to go in a beehive, sounded cool as all get out, but not getting stung. And so we would work on the weekends, you know, that the very beginning, right? The hook was well, first off, you smoke the bees, right? So you light this smoker, which is like a tin can with a bellows on it. You put that in the front of the hive, then you crack the lid, and then these bees all come out, and you have this roar, and you're terrified because you just don't know.
What's happening?
I know now. But at that time, it's like, oh my God, here they come. And it's amazing how many bees are in a hive. There's like up to 80,000 bees, right? So when they're pouring out, it's intimidating, and the sound, and you think they're like coming for you, and it's probably 102 degrees, right? And I'm in rain pants and a rain jacket. I am drenched in sweat. Of course, I have a bee veil on, and I think I have like these rubber gloves. It's insane. And I pulled a frame of honey out, right? They're in these wooden frames, and they make the comb. They put the nectar in, fan the water out, and depending on what flower they went to, what species of flower, the color is going to change, and where it's going to be determined by that species. So when you hold that frame up against the sun, you see different colors shining through. It's literally like stained glass. And I won't wax on right now about that, but I certainly could. It is because it is holy in a way. And so, yeah, you poke your finger in there and break the wax cappings and taste it, and you've got this red honey that tastes real candy sweet, and you've got this greenish honey that tasted kind of minty because it really was from mint. Anyway, just different colors, different flavors, different taste. That amazed me. That hooked me, and literally still today, that still amazes me, and I'm still hooked. I mean, that's what I do. That's my job. I sell different colors of honey. It tastes different. I mean, like at its simplest, that's what I do. And I still love it. So feel lucky there.
Well, let's go back though, because I want to talk about the Roy Hightower interaction. So was he scouting your land? Like, how did this happen? Because you lived on St. Simon's Island, right?
Yes.
He lived on Brunswick, which is
right.
like inland.
Yes.
So for people that don't know the geographical territory of Georgia, right? So St. Simon's Island is on the beach, and then Brunswick is kind of like the inland version, I guess, of Georgia. Well, I mean, how would you describe it?
Yeah. It's the I guess, quote unquote city. It's really the town.
Right.
It's the town on the mainland.
We won't harp too much on Brunswick, right? Yeah. But he was from there. So how did this happen? Was he kind of scouting areas, and you guys had just the plush, I guess, like land and flowers and is it foliage? Is that the word? Like, is that right?
Yeah,
like you guys just had what he was looking for? I mean, how did that start?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there's one, from his perspective, he's got to find somebody that's willing to let him put bees on their property.
Right.
There's all kinds of just fears that people don't understand about bees. So somebody that's willing to put bees on there, and then it's got to be a place he thinks the bees are going to be able to collect nectar and make a bunch of honey. Mm-hmm. Our land was perfect, man. And I'm not saying it was the only place, but somehow my dad, who is an attorney, he knew somebody that knew Roy, and they got connected. And you know what? There is a story. There's a guy before Roy that wanted to put his bees there, and then somebody told my father, that dude, man, he put some bees on my land. He didn't give me but like a baby jar full of honey, man. You don't want to let him do it.
Oh my gosh.
But I know this other guy, Roy. I'm pretty sure this is how the story goes, right? I was a kid, and this was all through my father. So this guy Roy, he's stand up, and he'll do better. So I think my dad and Roy got connected, and that's how the bees got there.
And your dad is such an interesting character. I don't want to eliminate him from the beginning of this story.
Oh yeah, I know, he's integral for sure.
And so I would say like ways. Beyond progressive. I mean, I want you to talk a little bit about him and his journey. And I guess my one question that I would ask your dad if he was sitting here is, what were you thinking when you were agreeing to put bees on land with kids when there are so many stigmas about bees? Do you know the answer to that, or?
My answer is that my dad doesn't care about shit.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, he really doesn't. He doesn't worry. I mean, we got turned out as kids. It was kind of Lord of the Flies in some aspects, right? So you got the idyllic swimming in the waves for most of your life, but then you also have like the roving bands of kids, neighborhood boys, and you just got to find your place in it. And my God, there's a lot of stories. But yes, he just did not worry about us. We hitchhiked with kids all over the place, and he encouraged it. He was not worried because he grew up in a small town where just that's what happened. And everybody was safe. And I guess he didn't know any better.
Yeah,
But
he just saw this as an experience. Right?
I wish I didn't worry the way he didn't worry with like my kids and other stuff. But so yeah, he didn't worry. He was the kind of, I mean, and honestly, he really is the guy that ponied me up for this life, right? He was the one that was like, do what you love, don't do anything for money. And so he drilled that into me. I say he's an attorney, but he's that's not what he is, right? Mm-hmm. He's a world traveler. The whole reason he had this land was because he'd, in the course of like 3 years, been to every single country in Europe, including Eastern Bloc countries. He had a ponytail down his back. He had this long hair. Like he won some kind of Supreme Court case for letting you, like, you couldn't kick kids out of school. You couldn't make them cut their hair. Mm-hmm. So it's he's quite the anomaly as far as I would say attorneys go, people go, fathers go. But it was great. So all that having been said, these travels in Europe are what made him want to come back, and he wanted to open a youth hostel because he'd had so much fun at youth hostels all through Europe, and he's going to come back. So he buys 100 acres of land, which is basically swampland. It's really low-lying land, and he puts tree houses and geodesic domes down this potholy old dirt road that we made, and that's what we were doing. So, yes, he's not worried about bees at all.
Yeah.
Right? Not at all.
It just seems like he wanted you guys to have every experience possible. Like he wanted you guys to have the opportunity to experience this. I mean, I don't know anyone that grew up with bees on their land, and I'm from the Midwest. Right. So that's it's so mind blowing. I think that's really cool that he, was like, sure, come on.
Pretty much anyone that knows my father says, when I die, I want to come back as Tom Dennard.
Yeah.
Because he's had the most charmed life, and so.
Yeah, I love hearing that story. So I want to continue on this topic and ask, when Roy came onto your land, what did that look like? So I know prior to learning about bees, we have this idea that bees kind of live in trees, which is true. Like they build their hives within trees. So what was going on? Was he putting bees in the area? Was he catching bees and just letting them go free? Were there bee boxes? Can you talk about bee boxes and give us insight on what that looked like on your land?
No. Excuse me, all the pollen. So absolutely there were bee boxes. He had an old pickup truck, and we hauled the hives there. We cleared a little spot close to the road. I can't tell you how heavy those things are when they're full of honey too. Mm-hmm. But built some little concrete little block stands and put those wooden white boxes on there. So they're very simple. Bees need a cavity, right? And that's why hollow trees make great homes. But in places that have rock cavities, they can live in rock cavities, right? Like a little hole. They need to be protected from the elements. They like a little hole as an entrance, because that way it's defensible. They can keep other invaders out. So there's a bunch of different things. Like the amount of space is something they look for. I think it's like 6 cubic feet or something like that.
Wow.
I honestly don't quote me on that. But there's a certain volume of space they're looking for, a defensible entrance that is protected from the weather and that type of thing. So humans have just created a wooden box, right, and put bees in it. People have done it out of baskets. People have done it out of ceramic containers. I mean, they just need a space, and they know what to do. And as a beekeeper, you want to encourage them to make their honeycombs in a straight line, parallel. They do it in parallel lines. You want them to do it inside this wooden frame, so you can pull the frame out and extract the honey and then put that frame back in. Also to pull those frames out to inspect the colony, which you need to do because the colony is a super organism. So the entity is the hive, right? It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. But you have to. It's like any animal husbandry. You got to check them do checkups, make sure they're healthy. And so hive inspections are not just to rob honey; they are to make sure your bees are good and your queen is healthy and all kinds of stuff.
We have so much queen talk. I mean, we're gonna have so many queen questions.
So yes, wooden boxes is what Roy brought, and we hauled them and had a little clearing. We dug a little pit and that filled with water, so they had water they use it to cool the hive down mostly, and that was what it looked like.
So Roy approaches your father. Your father says yes. He shows up with bee boxes. How many hives were on your land?
I believe there was about 15. About 15.
So, and that is 15 individual boxes, right? So Are we talking like a line, like, or just individual? There were 15 stacked on top of each other.
So,
or how did that look?
So the colony is they can live in one box, but as they grow, you put another box, and then you put another box and another box, and then in the winter when they begin to shrink the population and you take some of the honey off, you start taking those boxes away. So they just kind of telescope out and then back in by adding boxes and subtracting boxes. So that's 15 stacks of boxes. Let's say.
Wow. Okay. How many bees is that?
Let's just say 60,000 per colony and times that.
Wow.
So a chunk, 900,000. I don't know. What is that?
Oh, we can get out our phone. What is it, Will? So 60,000 times 15?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like 900,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So there were 900,000 bees on your land.
Let's just call it a million.
There were a million bees. There were a million bees just flying around your property.
And it is so super cool to see them, because when you go to an apiary and there's just that many bees and they're just doing their thing, coming and going, visiting 2 million flowers to make a pound of honey. So they're out there just like machine guns of bees just firing out of the entrances and then coming right back in, laden with nectar and pollen and just it's crazy.
Their mission,
but it's hypnotic too. There's something super special about bees and their movement and the sounds and so yeah, it's a sight and experience to have.
So, a million bees on your property. Roy was you said sideliner. Sideliner.
Yeah.
We'll get into the Savannah Bee mission of why we do what we do, but what was Roy's mission? I mean, what was his purpose?
I think that was his joy and love, and I would say from my experience, and I have met just from that initial spark, I can't even untold numbers of beekeepers, but I think he just loved his bees. Mm-hmm. I really do. And he worked at one of the 3 factories or something that were in the county.
Yeah.
And I don't think he loved that job, but he was a career man. He did a good job, but I think he loved his bees, so that's why he did it. And I think that's common among all beekeepers. You just love your bees, and let me just tell you, there's not like a lot of money there certainly wasn't a lot of money in keeping bees and selling some jars of honey. Certainly not back then. And even in the late 90s, it's a labor of love, truly, literally, and it was not very, lucrative by any stretch. Right. These days, things have changed a lot, but yeah. So yeah, beekeepers did it because a lot of times because their grandfather did it, and then their father did it, and then they're doing it, and that's it just gets passed down. But once you get introduced to it, you always want to have them.
Yeah.
So.
Was there a post-production process? Was he selling honey, or was he giving it away, or was?
He sold honey. He probably gave a lot away and sold some. I really can't remember that as much. We sure got a lot of honey from it. And we would extract it. It was so much fun. And we put it in every found container we could find. Have. Yeah. So we had gallons of honey and big jars of honey and little jars of honey and the whole gamut. It was crazy. But it was it was so fun. And then I would take the cappings, because you have to take the cappings off the frames, the honeycombs, in order to spin the honey out in the centrifuge, and which is called an extractor. But I would take these, like, when you use this hot electric knife to kind of slice or kind of, cut through the cappings, melt them off almost. And when there'd be a thick one with some honey still, you do a little deep cut, so there's honey in there. I would take all those home and keep them in little cups. And I just remember eating them like throughout, whatever, like middle school, high school. And I loved it. I loved it, chewing on it.
So Roy has these bees. He's producing honey. This is his passion. How old were you when this started taking place on your guys'
land? That's like a running debate. It depends on the time of year. So I have said 13 and 14. So it was, I would have been 1, 2, 3, 13.
We're finger counting.
Sorry. I know, right? I just got to figure this out. 13.
Okay. And how involved were your brothers and sisters? Were they
not at all
turned on? No. So this was you and
my
Roy.
brother would have been maybe a little bit, but he didn't. He would have been in the very beginning. I think he dressed up too, but he just didn't take to it. I don't know why it took root in me the way it did.
Yeah.
But it did.
I find that fascinating. I find beekeeping in general as a passion project and or career fascinating, but I'm going to go woo-woo a little bit.
That's fine.
On this, but I am blown away that at such a young age, something so unique found its way into your life, and it just has continued for decades.
Yes, and I will. I wish it was something that back then I knew, like, oh my God, this is what I'm doing. I love it no matter what. You know what I mean? This is going to be my career path.
Right.
I never knew that. I never could see the future. I knew I loved bees. I knew I would always work and have bees, but I had no clue about the business or the stuff that would go down and happen. And yeah, so I wish I had that foresight, but maybe not, maybe not. It was really, man, I am lucky.
Yeah, it blows me away that what became, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but almost like your life's work and purpose entered at such a young age. It was such a reforming time, right? 13.
I'm telling you, that was way away. That becoming a man. This is my rite of passage.
Right.
I never thought of that, but I am now. And absolutely. No, so I couldn't have been more fortunate. I really couldn't have. But it just didn't click in a way, except that just I loved it. Mm-hmm. And some of the stuff I have friends that will tell me, the thing about the honeycomb next to my bed, I had a friend that told me, you remember you had honeycomb next to your bed? I had forgotten, but it's oh yeah, I do remember
raw
that.
Honeycomb or like a statue of honeycomb?
No, sorry, yeah, raw. Yeah, this is what I would be eating. Yeah. Throughout high school.
Well, I have to say that since the very first honeycomb I ate, I crave it probably every 3 days. It's crazy. So if anyone listening hasn't tried raw honeycomb, go order some now. It's crazy addictive.
The most raw. Yeah, it is good.
Yeah.
And fresh honeycomb is the best honeycomb. Honestly.
And not
all honeycomb is good, but this is the stuff that we were really cutting off, and it was kind of like what you might call the dregs. It's the cappings, and there's still honey in there, and that's what I would be chewing on.
I'm salivating. I'm over here I want it.
Good.
But I'm also obsessed with the wax. I love the texture of it, which some people don't, but I think it's like gum to me.
No, it is. You would just chew it, and you spit it out later.
I swallow it. Are you not supposed to?
No, you do. So when I put it on food, totally, you eat it.
Okay.
Tons of vitamin A, roughage, good for you. But if you just are chewing just the plain, like a big chunk of honeycomb, I chew it like gum, and then I spit that out.
Yeah. I love it. All right, so back to a young Ted. So the Roy Hightower chapter of your story, how did this transition into, I guess you're in high school now. Is he still around and kicking it? What happened here?
Well, he kicked it. Sorry.
Sorry, Roy. R.I.P. Highest respects.
Definitely don't. No, he did. No, sorry, but no.
I love that. Keep it in.
No, he did. I think he's happy and proud. He's not mad. Roy ended up dying, and
kicked it.
He really left us all of the equipment, the bees, all of that stuff. So basically, this is about the same time, or just he died right before the mites came, and that's a whole nother story. It's like the super powered malady or plague of bees and beekeeping around the world.
Right.
But they hit the United States in the mid '80s, and that's when I graduated from high school. That's when I went to college, and that's when Roy died. And so I would come back. I remember coming back from college, and all the bees were dead, and it just didn't make any sense to me at all. But yeah, I didn't know about mites.
That's a whole episode that we're going to have to spend on mites.
Honestly. Yeah, there's a lot of things. But yeah, so I'm not saying there's any connection between, but yeah, Roy died and the hives ended up dying off too. So I would have to get new bees and put them in some of the old boxes and stuff.
Is that what you did?
Keep them going. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so Roy, but here's the real thing about Roy, and it does get me a little emotional a little bit talking about it, because so he honestly passed this torch, this baton, this whatever you want to call it, but it really is like a torch, right? So he passes it to me, little kid, and again, I had no idea about this then, right? But in looking back, it seems obvious. He passes it to me, then he passes on, right? Passes away, and so then I go to college. I have a beekeeper mentor up there. Then I join the Peace Corps. They want me to do beekeeping. They send me to Jamaica for 2 years. Then I travel. I meet beekeepers. I start this company. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that have been touched by bees, right? Like beekeeping, like introduced to beekeeping, because Roy introduced me to it, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like he started a wildfire in a way, right? Because our stores, we have millions of people that come in, just our stores, every single year, and we are educating and teaching and showing them that different colors of honey taste different depending on what species of the bees go to, right? Varietal honeys. I mean, I'm dumbing it down, but that's the essence of it. And so really it's incredible what he started. I don't think it was conscious on his part, nor was not conscious of it either. But yeah, looking back, he really passed the baton. So that's an amazing thing. Like,
talk about legacy.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's such
and giving me purpose and meaning. Anyway, gets me all choked
I know,
up.
I feel it over here. No, it's amazing. Well, with that, Roy was amazing to you and the story, and a prominent part of this first episode, obviously. But wow, I don't even know how to transition out of that. That was just like real shit. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back. So you're beekeeping, you move on to do it in college.
That's a whole nother great story too. Can I just throw this is like a total tangent. So while when you set up banking accounts and stuff, sometimes you have to you go through all these checks, right? Like they ask all these questions. What's your high school mascot, whatever. And they're like, what was your first pet's name? And I was like, And I was thinking like Midnight was the name of our black lab. And then I'm like, no, it was a cat, and the cat's name was Honey.
Oh my
When I was
gosh.
a little kid. And that never even dawned on me either. It's like, wait a minute.
So many
Are you
parallels.
joking?
Wow.
How funny is that? Like, yeah, it was kind of like destiny. That cat scratched my eyes, and my dad shot it.
A turn in the story, turn of events.
But that put power in it, and now
PETA, don't come for us.
no, I don't know. He shot at it, is what he says, but we never saw the cat again.
That's great. No, you got.
That's
And that's it, folks. I don't know how we come back from that. And that's a wrap. No, that's good. So in college, you were getting loans to start beekeeping?
No. This was not in college.
Okay.
Sorry. This is once I had the business.
Once the business was going. All right, but that reminds me. All right, I want to go back. Beekeeping. We have talked about this. I think it's kind of common sense because it's like revving up right now. But when you were doing it in your 13th year of life up to high school and college, this was a dying craft. So you have told me that you would attend conferences in small towns and there would be, everybody knew each other. It was a small, tight-knit community, and you felt the pressure of, I might be the last one, right? You were the youngest.
Right.
You didn't know what was going to happen to this this art form, honestly.
So yes, so there's beekeeping associations, locally, regionally, and then there's statewide. And I would go to the Coastal Empire Beekeeping Association. This is in the 1997, I guess, and 98. And literally, I think there was 5 beekeepers, and they were really old. And I was this long-haired, ponytailed beekeeper, and I wasn't really young, but I had that thought, I'm looking at them like this is a dying art. Look at these old guys. And I think they were looking at me thinking, this is a dying art. Look at that hippie boy. He'll never keep it up. So that literally was how it was. I would drive 3 hours to Waycross to a bigger beekeeping association meeting. It was a local one, but I mean, people would come from neighboring towns. There's a lot of beekeepers in that part of the state too.
Okay.
I met a mentor there. Anyway, there's a lot of stories. But yes, again, there was a bunch of old dudes, and there was myself and one other guy that was younger. So that was what it was like in the late 90s. And then I know it seems that it's kind of becoming in vogue, but it's been a while. Ever since the colony collapse disorder news got out there, bees are in trouble, people have been getting interested in beekeeping. And so the local beekeepers, just backyard beekeepers, has exploded.
Sure.
And I mean exploded.
Yeah.
The last time I checked, and it's been years and years and years, that Coastal Empire Beekeeping Association here in Savannah had 180 members, and I'm thinking, wow, 20 years ago it was 8.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So that's a great, and that's a silver lining for some of the things that are going on with bees.
You mentioned Save the Bees, and I want to end this episode a little bit on what that means to you, and then we'll parlay that into next episode.
Okay.
But it's all over the internet. It's all over social media. It's a phenomenon. Save the bees, save the bees, save the bees. It's, I would say, I don't want to say a 50-50 split. I think there are people out there that think bees sting. I don't care if we don't have bees anymore.
Right.
They don't understand that there are many different breeds, races. Is that how you would refer to it? I mean, there's just a long list of different kinds of bees. But when we're saying save the bees, what are we saving, number one? And then number two, why are we saving them? Most people, I think, are confused about that.
Absolutely. So again, there's so much more awareness, right? And I think awareness is a key word on that. And so I think you're sort of asking a few different questions. But
I am.
one,
5, I think, in one.
So yeah, raising awareness is, I think, one of our main goals right here, mine and Savannah Bee Company's, to raise awareness about bees, right? So. Right. And so by answering your question, that's kind of what we're doing, trying to teach people about bees, right? So in a nutshell, and we can just be simplistic, you've got your sweet, fuzzy, soft-bodied, hairy pollinator bees, and then you've got your hard-plated bodied wasp, okay, and hairless, and
nasty.
So you got those guys, and these girls, and so the bees are. I mean, I know about honeybees. I don't know about all the other bees. There's 25,000 species of bees worldwide, somewhere in that ballpark. They're all in some sort of trouble and peril, but they are pretty much all pollinators, right? That's their role. That's the path. They branched off, 100 and something million years ago. This is me talking, right? I'm no scientist, but the way I see it, 100 and something million years ago, the bees branched off from the wasp, and they started working with the flowering plant world, and they helped create this flowering plant world, literally. And the wasps just stayed parasitic, and they basically are eating insects. I'm not saying that's all bad, but they're not the good girls like the bees are. Yeah. So when we say this, I'm slowly getting around. So when we say save the bees, we really mean all the bees, right? And then by association, all the pollinators, right? And then if you want to take it all the way out and extrapolate, we're saving the planet, we're saving ourselves by saving the bees, right? I mean, we should all be interested in that goal,
right?
Absolutely. So all bees are pretty much all bees can sting. Pretty much all wasps can sting, and so bees are. But let's just put it this way: most 90-something% of the stings in this country are yellow jackets. They're a wasp that live in the ground, and they come out and sting the daggum hell out of everybody, and they go up your pants legs and your shirt, and they keep stinging and stinging. God. And people think, oh, I got stung by bees, and it's not bees, it's these yellow jackets. And those nasty mother scratchers will end up, I mean, they can kill beehives if there's too many of them. They're just I've seen them they'll eat dead bodies. I mean, they're just kind of nasty, right? And they're mean. They're nasty in their behavior, and they're nasty in what they eat. And their behavior, they're just not nice, right? They're really not nice. So I don't love them. Ground hornets, people call them, and they prey on bees. And they sting the people, and they give bees a bad rap because people think they're the same size. Wow, that's a bee. What's the difference? But there's a huge difference, right? So contrast that with your sweet honeybees. They're just, like I said, they're flying, they go to flowers and then come back. They go to flowers and then come back. Honeybees, if they sting you, they lose their stinger and they die. So they don't want to sting you. They're only going to sting you if they have to. And that's if you sit on one, step on one, squeeze one accidentally, right? Or if you just go popping in their beehive too cavalier and in the wrong way, they're going to defend the hive. So that's the only ways you'll ever get stung by a honeybee.
Also, I want to add that bees prefer warm, sunny days above, 75, 65?
Above 55. Oh, yes.
So leave them alone on a rainy, cold day because they're not happy, right? Who is happy on a rainy, cold day?
Not me. I literally said yesterday that I think I am a bee because I hate the cold. I don't like the cold, and I'm sick of it, and I want some warm weather.
Right. Well, you know me. Ted and I go to lunch and we lay out instead of eating. We lay out on outdoor seating. We love the sun.
Do you mind if we move the table out in the sun?
Right. Well, I think that's a great place to end our first episode. And next time we'll get more into bee stuff.
All right. Hey, that's fun. All right. Thanks.
All right.